So I had an insanely clever intro for this video all planned up here in my head. It had some twists and turns, it had some anecdotes, it was going to teach you a little bit of something, and it was also going to feel somehow connected to the topic that I was going to go over today, while also feeling completely random and disconnected. But then I remembered I had to make some announcements, so I'm going to make some announcements for this video. Announcement number one: I have a Discord. You know how I've always said in every video I've ever done that this show isn't just a show, it's a community, it's a conversation. Well, now we're going to live up to that creed, and the link is in the description. Obviously, there will be higher tiers for my Patreons and my Subscribe Star subscribers, and the people who have clicked the join button, like, rooms for those people specifically, and I'll probably have links to those specific sections of the Discord in those specific, websites or whatever. Also, and this is for those of you who have already commented or are currently commenting this down in the comment section right now, I am fully aware that I've never once said, let alone in every single video said, that this is not just a show, but it's a community and a conversation. The reason I've never said that is because it's not true. It's not a show, it's not a community, it's not a conversation. That being said, if you want to join the Discord, I think it will be fun. Link is in the description. Announcement number two: I've gotten the request multiple times to set up a BitChute account. I have currently done so, and all of my videos going forward will be mirrored onto that BitChute account. It's also the actual Justice Warrior, so that will make it easy to find, and the link is also in the description box of this video if you want to check that out. And finally, there's announcement number three, which is if you don't care about BitChute or Discord and you just want to hear me talk about AMC versus Universal Studios, then you just gotta tune into the video right after I finish this sentence in order to do so. So I was scrolling through the internet looking for stories or things to get angry at on the internet so I can make a video about it so you guys can share in my frustration, when all of a sudden I saw a story that actually interests me, and it was the fact that AMC theaters were going to start refusing to show Universal Studios movies in their theater, and the headlines indicated that this was over Trolls World Tour, which is a movie that Universal decided to release for video on demand due to the fact that theaters were closing because of the crisis that we're all currently dealing with. Now, my initial reaction to this was that I viewed AMC theaters as being petty, and I thought that this was a weird flex to do over a kids movie that didn't really have a lot of interest in the first place, and probably only did so well due to the fact that a lot of people were stuck at home with their kids who couldn't go to school and the parents couldn't go to work. However, upon looking into the story a little bit more, I actually found out that the Trolls World Tour aspect to it is just the tip of the iceberg in why AMC is starting to take this stance with Universal. You see, I've become quite interested in what's going to happen post-pandemic, what's going to happen when we move past this and finally reopen. What is our new relative state of normalcy going to actually look like? And my curiosity takes a number of forms. What's going to change in government policy? What's going to happen economically, both on a macro scale, and what business models will no longer be viable post-pandemic? Because like it or not, we're not going to be able to return to the same state of normalcy that we had before. We're going to have some level of new normalcy, and there will be economic losers in that scenario. And one of the industries that is definitely on the chopping block, make no mistake about it, is the movie theater industry. And that's especially true for America's largest movie theater chain, AMC Theaters, because they were already in financial peril prior to this crisis. And while this should surprise absolutely no one at this point, it's important to point out that AMC's pre-crisis financial troubles were due in large part to a corruption scandal that surrounded their largest Chinese investor. Let's just say that getting in bed with the CCP is something that I would likely advise against, no matter what the context is. But that's not the only pre-crisis problem that the movie theater industry, and AMC specifically, have had to deal with. Ticket revenue over the past couple of years has been down, and worse than that, Disney has represented a larger and larger portion of ticket sales for these movie theaters. So Disney has been putting pressure on these movie theaters to keep their movies in the theaters longer, and has been demanding a larger share of each ticket sold's revenue. So you can see why movie theater companies, and AMC specifically, were already in peril prior to the crisis that we're all dealing with. So why are they going so hard at Universal? Now, a lot of people want to pin this, and all the headlines seem to be pinning this on Trolls World Tour being released on demand instead of theaters when theaters were closed. But that's not it. It's actually the statements of the CEO of Universal about other movies that are going to come out after theaters end up eventually reopening. You see, the success of the Trolls movie's on-demand release has actually emboldened the NBC Universal CEO Jeff Shell to proclaim that once movie theaters open, he's expecting his company to release their new big slate of movies that they pushed back both in the theaters and on demand at the same time. You see, Trolls World Tour grossed $95 million, which might not sound like that much in comparison to the giant mega blockbusters that we normally see dominating theaters these days, but that's $95 million that doesn't have to be split 50-50 with the movie theaters per ticket sold. Now, it's important to point out that even though this Trolls movie made more money worldwide in 3 weeks than the previous one did in theaters over 5 months, that doesn't necessarily mean that this is a better business model going forward. This is unique circumstances where people have to be at home, and they have to be at home with their kids, so releasing a kids movie in this way definitely made a lot of sense in a way that maybe releasing your big budget movies just wouldn't. This is why the CEO of NBC Universal wants to release their big budget releases after theaters open, both in theaters and on demand, because he wants to compare and contrast, but AMC cannot afford for the on-demand service to be more viable than their business model. In fact, they can't even afford for a significant portion of the people who would have saw it in theaters to go see it on demand because they're hanging by a thread as it is. Even if AMC wins, even if 90% of the people who would have saw it in the theater still go and see it in the theater, that 10% or whatever amount that choose to go see it on demand is enough to cripple their already failing business model. But that's not even the worst case scenario that AMC Theaters is looking at in terms of Universal deciding to go in this direction. Let's say they don't do anything and they decide, hey, you can release it on demand. We're not going to have our 72-day to 90-day monopoly on the distribution of your movies that our entire business model is based on. And other movie studios decide, hey, that sounds like a good idea. We're going to try the same thing. If that happens, AMC is completely done. So they have to take this very strict stand that they're taking with Universal that they've previously taken in the past with Netflix Studios films and Amazon Prime Studios films in order to try to save their business model. AMC absolutely needs Universal to come back to the table and scrap their video on demand release style. And they're hoping that basically barring them from the movie theaters will scare them enough in order to not pursue that path, because they do have some big budget releases coming up, and it would be a shame for Universal if Jurassic World, James Bond, and the latest Fast and Furious movie were to be financial flops because they couldn't get any distribution in America's largest movie theater chain. And make no mistake, AMC Theaters is not acting like a jilted ex-lover. Their goal is to get Universal back in the fold and releasing their movies in the same manner that they would traditionally do. Because remember that problem that I told you about with Disney representing such a large share of box office revenue that they're basically holding up these movie theaters in order to get a higher percentage of the ticket sales. That problem gets exacerbated when a major studio just pulls out of the theater system altogether. The fact is, the way things are trending right now, if we still have major movie theater chains in a couple of years, that will be a minor miracle. If AMC Theaters as a company itself is still around at that same period of time, that will be a major miracle because everything right now is working against this company. And what you're seeing is not them being bitter, it's them being incredibly tactical. What you're seeing is a company acting like they're on the razor's edge because they are in fact on the razor's edge. Now, if you think that the collapse of the movie theater industry is going to add up to an automatic boom for these major studio companies, then I would hold off on that investment because while in the short term, it's going to be great for these studios because they don't have to split revenue with these individual theaters, long term, people are going to figure this out because the movie theaters charge per person. And people are going to figure out that for that 48-hour rental fee, you can either share an account or have a bunch of people over. And I think that this is going to eventually lead to the collapse of the big budget blockbuster films because those films are so reliant on the box office revenue in order to be remotely profitable. I mean, just think about it logically. The bigger the fan base for the movie, the bigger the budget for the movie, the bigger the party that people are going to have in order to watch the movie. And that's all individuals that won't be paying their own personal watch fee. And it's not like you can monkey around with the price too much in order to compensate for this. because you can't lose people who would have bought the individual movie just to watch by themselves at home in order to crack down on the parties. It's not going to work that way. And the more you raise the price of that 24-hour or 48-hour on-demand rental in order to compensate for people watching it in groups, the more you incentivize people to watch it in larger and larger groups. I mean, think about it. How many times have you watched a pay-per-view at home alone? Chances are not that many times. And for me personally, I've absolutely never watched a pay-per-view event alone by myself. But I've been to a ton of pay-per-view parties where everybody gathers in a pool of money and they essentially split the cost of the $50 fight or the $100 fight, whatever they might be charging. Now, Combat Sports has figured out a pretty good way to make that pay-per-view model financially viable, but remember, we're dealing with once in a blue moon live sporting events. The idea that that is somehow transplantable to the studio system is not proven. The blockbuster film market is way more oversaturated than live combat sport pay-per-view events. So something's got to give in order for that business model to work, and it's going to give on the budget and marketing end. Anyway, those are just my thoughts on this dispute between AMC Theaters and NBC Universal. Obviously, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think is going to happen with the entertainment industry? Do you think this business model will be viable? Put all your thoughts down in the comments. I'm actually really interested to read them. But as always, if you like the video, show me by leaving a like. Subscribe for more content, follow me on all my social medias, check out the links in the description to support me and all that nonsense. The new links, the BitChute, the Discord, whatever. Till next time.